This is one of those being the recipient of attack experiences. I was in my bedroom and practicing just being. By placing aside the personal self-thoughts and emotions, one can assume this state of being in the new nowness. Ideally, one would seek to be in this state as much as possible, but it's far easier to be so when removed from the distractions and happenings of the physical world, and having to deal with everyone else's decisions and created ideas. This state I refer to as the in-betweeny state. Perhaps a little inaccurate description, as it is a state of just being. So in fact, one is not in between anything, just is. Why I call it this is very often I find myself, after a time of being, that I will be straddling both the physical life level and the real side, and can expect to have all manner of impressions and anomalies in my room that I can now perceive, where I would not if my awareness was locked completely into the senses of the physical vehicle. From here, it can be very much like a dipping into the real side without full immersion, without going to sleep and placing aside the physical vehicle. From here, I can launch out of body experiences if I so choose, or lucid dreams, or I can simply be, and be the experiencer of whatever features in my presence and awareness. With imagination also, I can set the stage to an extent of where I may go exploring, or the nature of my exploration if I slip into sleep. It is also a place where much of the attacks by the dark forces and individuals can be experienced. The in-betweeny state maintained on waking after an attack on the real side can have said attackers manifesting in my room on the physical, as I maintain my perception from the real side. A little like an overlap between two subtle layers, maintaining the perceptual ability to see both. So aspects of the real side superimpose on the physical, or on occasion, as in this case, the other way around, where I would begin on the physical, be in my practice of being isness. My perception widens and incorporates both the physical and the real side, as I am in the in-betweeny state, and the attack ensued. It was a little difficult to determine at first the nature of the attack. To maintain my perception of it, the in-betweeny state must be perpetuated. If my awareness slams back into the physical, I can perceive no more of the experience. With attacks by individuals of ill intent, first I tend to receive the impression of it, a foreboding, a sense of malevolence. Seems very often the intent of an individual precedes them, then the decided action follows, like getting a real awareness sense of an individual deciding something before the execution of said ill deed, a real heads up, as it were. I recognized the nature, the signature of the foreboding. It was entity related. Having encountered entities, reptilians, and all manner of dubious, fear-based individuals on the real side, you tend to develop a real self-catalogue of the subtle differences, and so it was entity-related, the sort of individuals that lurk in the recesses of the lower astral, to my reckoning, the most forbidding of all, real self-impressioned sources of foreboding. And so, although unseen but impressioned, these entities clustered around me, and had nothing but ill intentions, as entities have a tendency to be. I would begin singing my go-to defense for all things malicious and ill-intended, the New You song, as it is remarkably effective at dispelling ill-intended individuals. Seems that the vibration of the sound, which is that of the ears, for which it is the connection to, is such that those very much of creation, and particularly those of ill intent, cannot stand in the presence of this sound. They retreat, vanish, or run scuttling from whence they came. The New You song proved as effective as ever. I also have found that it closes portals we may inadvertently create, portals by which astral critters can utilize, although on this occasion I had no sense of portals as I have on other experiences. I am assured that as the New You song dispelled this particular cluster of entities, any portal would be sealed too. However, now I had slipped fully onto the real side, and I found myself initially under the covers of my blankets, but instead of how you might imagine this to look, it was more like a very long tunnel with a faint light at the end. I would make my way down this impossibly long tunnel, and knew that I must extricate myself from this by the only way available, the light at the end. Perhaps a degree of personal self-panic crept in, as I considered the light to be too far away to reach, so I broke through the side of the tunnel. Now I was in the house still, and beside my bed, but on the real side. I wandered toward the bathroom, across the hallway. The place seemed very gloomy, a darkness enveloping my surroundings to a degree, obscuring the house interior to an extent. As I stumbled into the bathroom, this lack of clarity caused by the darkness perpetuated, and then I looked in the mirror. My reflection was very distorted, my face misshapen, and barely recognizable as human, or as having human facial features. The face covered in patches of dark bristly fur, and my hair was vast and overgrown. I then awoke, back in my room, on the physical once more, and began to sing the New You again, a precautionary warding off of entities, and such measure as my awareness was completely now on the physical, and if there were critters around, I'd be unable to perceive them. So I felt it prudent to sing the New You song, just in case they were there, but beyond my ability to now recognize. I can't ever stress enough the effectiveness of the New You song when it comes to unsavory entanglements on the real side. It is an invaluable means of dealing with individuals who don't have our best intentions. Through awareness, we can better handle any situation, and the guides always are close at hand. But the guides do like us to practice the handling of experiences ourselves. On the real side, situations tend to be handled by the real self and awareness far better, as the connection to it expands over time. So attacks on the real side are rarely an issue. In this in-betweeny state, however, I am less adept at handling situations like this one, despite the awareness being connected to, and so I rely upon the power of the New You song. With the tunnel in the experience, I am reminded of Claudette's experience, where she was flying through a dark tunnel and a light at the very end. When reaching this and finding a door barring her path, she would break through and meet Dwayne on the real side, proclaiming and having her contentions confirmed by Dwayne that yes, she had made it. She made it through the darkness of creation to the only light in the simulator, that of the ears, the new presentation, and Dwayne. This tunnel, then, was along similar lines, and perhaps again representing creation as a darkness of ideas that go nowhere. The light at the end being perhaps, like in Claudette's experience, the light of the true reality. Except I didn't make it that far. I broke through the sides. This suggested to me that perhaps I was trying to literalize too much, to understand the ears with my mind, that perhaps if I just let go, recognition of the ears would eventually be gleaned, rather than continue on through the tunnel. Perhaps I thought I could figure out the ears to an extent, deciding to break through the tunnel prematurely with my literal considerations, rather than continue the course, as it were, the process of recognition. And so I found myself back in the house, amidst the same darkness that the tunnel housed. So much for trying to think what the is. I had gotten nowhere, but back in creation again. And as a further demonstration of how I had not extricated myself from creation by trying to use the faculties of the vehicles to perceive the ears that are designed only for the creational simulator, and I saw my reflection as distorted. A demonstration, then, of the distortion that is prevalent in creation, the distortion everyone is agreeing with, and an extension of the distortion they must become as they experience what they decide, the distortion they agree with. The tunnel representing creation, yes. The length of it representing all the various ideas that make up creation too. And my busting out at a certain point suggested the possibility also of an idea that I embroil myself with along the way, agree to, and become the effect of. For to fully recognize the ears, the light at the end of this tunnel, we must get through all of creation and ourselves, everything comprising of ideas, and always there are other created ideas that present themselves to us along the way. Should we agree with any of these ideas, should we engage with them, we can fall to the side. We can become the effect of them and spin off into more unconscious lifetimes. One more impression occurred in regards to entities. As we know, they are always very much seeking the opportunity to latch onto individuals, to energetically drain and parasitize, or to displace the individual whose vehicle it is, and claim it for themselves. They are certainly latching onto people far more readily than ever before. Instead of magical rituals and astral projections as a means, for example, of entity attachment to unwary practitioners of such things, seems they are utilizing the technology to align themselves with their targets also, again as has been revealed in, in real side dreams. There were a series of real side experiences that suggested the possibility that the new friends have been practicing the ability of transitioning at will, should they need to do so. That should circumstances become very dire here, they may transition to safer haven, to a safer, recognized spot in creation, at a higher life level, to continue on with their awareness process beyond the imploding physical life level. Evidently, when one transitions from the physical, it is usually that the physical body is now ineffective as a vehicle for experiencing the physical level. It is useless and discarded. But should someone transition at will for the reasons mentioned, they are exiting what was, up until the point they did so, a perfectly fine and fully functioning physical vehicle. I had the impression then that the entities somehow have got an inkling of this possibility, that the new friends may well be doing this at some point, that we may well be exiting prematurely a fully functional physical vehicle, and this is perhaps why these entities are clustering so close to myself, and I'm sure other new friends. How I've seen them on the astral, and when I go out of body, how they are encroaching much closer to my launch point than ever before. They are waiting, perhaps, for this opportunity to take possession of a discarded physical vehicle that is fully functional, that if they jump into it quickly enough before degradation, they can assume ownership of. They do steal human vehicles all the time, and perhaps with more frequency than we may realize, but generally the vehicles stolen are those of the unaware, who lack the protection real awareness and the guides afford, and don't know of the effectiveness of the New You song. So they can't steal new friends' physical vehicles unless for some reason we agree to it, which obviously we would not. And so the next best thing is to grab the vehicles we discard, if situations dictate that we do so. And perhaps then the reflection I saw in the mirror, the distorted face staring back at me, was how my entity hijacked vehicle would appear on the real side if I transitioned in such a manner. On the surface, the physical vehicle front left behind, looking normal on the physical life level, but from the real side, looking as distorted as the entity that had leapt into and now had the keeping of my discarded vehicle. Like individuals who look very human on the physical level, but are in fact reptilian, and are seen as such on the real side, like Harry, etc. The real side revealing what an individual is, based on what they are deciding, choosing what they are now, or in this case, what occupied my physical vehicle at that moment in the possible future view. The effect revealed on the real side instantaneously. The unaware peoples who lack the connection to their real awareness and the ears will be very easily aligned with these entities and the lower realms they inhabit through the various technological means, and through subliminal programmings. Agreement to this entity attachment and even vehicle stealing can be gleaned unbeknownst by the unaware, subconsciously and unconsciously. And how many movies do we see that incorporate this type of scenario, possession, etc.? The unaware can very easily agree with the themes of such movies, declaring them to be entertaining, and in essence are agreeing then with the stealing of their own physical bodies. And so that's probably about all the time I have for my dreams this week anyway, as we have reached the 7:30 mark. So I don't know if Dwayne wants to make any final comments, or if not, then over to Kelsey with any announcements or additional announcements you would like to make.
Okay, so I'll wrap it up, and the reminder is that the 18th at 9 a.m. Pacific time and the 18th at 6 p.m. Pacific time, there are Skype calls, and then the 24th at 10 p.m. Pacific time, there's a Skype call. That's this coming Saturday, and then the next Friday. Usually on the 26th, we would do another call with Kevin at 10 a.m. Right now, it looks like we're not going to do any calls on the weekend of the 25th. So the 25th and the 26th, it looks like there's not going to be any calls that weekend. Anyone is welcome to start a call, but the usual hosts, myself, Henry, and Eric, will not be starting calls on that weekend. Anyone else can do so, though. Okay, so I'll start the new year and we can go around. And also, this recording will be on new Kevin Smith's YouTube channel, as along with many other recordings that we've done. So you can go to new Kevin Smith's YouTube channel and share the videos from his YouTube channel as well. And there's also many of the Blog Talk Radio shows on Kevin's YouTube channel.
Thank you, UK kids. We'll see you next time. That was a lot of fun as usual, Kevin. Yes, you're helping a lot of people out there in the world. Yes, thank you for your adventures. Thank you, everybody. Thank Kelsey and everybody for putting up the show. Henry, Val, everyone, thank you. We'll see you next time.